Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Larson, the director of the Richland County Park District. I'm here today with our education director, Amanda Kreiner, videographer. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
We are here today to do a creek fossil hunt, and we're doing this in honor of our Rock and Fossil Day that we typically have here at Gorman Nature Center on the second Saturday of every May. Unfortunately, due to the COVID epidemic that's in Ohio and the U.S. and the rest of the world right now, and being that we're under our stay-at-home order and such, we're not able to actually have the Richland Lithic and Lapidary Society, our partners, here to help us with that event this weekend, which would have been this Saturday coming up in a couple of days. So what we wanted to do was put together some videos of some of the activities that would typically happen that day. On most occasions when we do Rock and Fossil Day, the club is set up here with all sorts of different displays of fossils and minerals and different lapidary and jewelry work, things you can buy. We have our gold panning out front, and flint napping, and our sandbox the kids can dig in, and all sorts of different activities. And one of the things that we do after our talk in the afternoon is we come down and we do a fossil hunt in the creek. And we do find quite a few fossils in our creek here at Gorman Nature Center. And I was talking to Amanda earlier when we were talking about wildflowers, is that, you know, we like for people to stay on the trails at Gorman Nature Center and not go into the woods to hunt for mushrooms and pick flowers and things like that, so we can preserve that habitat for everybody. But coming down into the stream is one of the things that we do allow, so people can come down and look for fossils and rocks and things of that nature. And our streams have a lot of cool things in them. Not only do they have fossils, but they have a lot of things that the glaciers have brought here as well. Most of the fossils that we do find here at Gorman Nature Center in the streams come out of the surrounding bedrock, and most of the bedrock we have in this area is mostly sandstone. And it's from about 350 million years ago, in a time they called the Mississippian era or period. And at that time, Ohio didn't look anything like it looks right now. There weren't even any dinosaurs at that time. It was way, way before the dinosaurs even. Ohio was actually in a landmass that was down near the equator, and it was covered almost entirely by a shallow saltwater sea. And in that shallow sea that might range from 15 to 20 or 30 feet, a lot of sunlight could get in there, and it looked a lot like what a coral reef might look like. There was a lot of small animals and activity that would be in there, and that's typically what the fossils are that we find, a lot of those aquatic fossils. So today we're going to be looking for things like crinoids, bryozoans, brachiopods, trilobites, things of that nature that would typically have been found in those shallow seas during the Mississippian era. We'll also find a lot of glacial outwash in our streams here from the surrounding areas that were brought down here by the glaciers, most recently 15 to 20,000 years ago by the Wisconsinian glaciers. And so you'll find a lot of things from Canada, like granite and gneiss. They'll all be nice and rounded from the glacier, but also the stream activity. We also might find some limestone fossils like horn corals that would have been brought here. So we're going to take some time today to look around. We're going to search for some fossils. Then we're going to take some of our finds and put them up here on the bridge and talk a little bit about each individual one, so you can have a little bit of a video guide for when you come out here to Gorman Nature Center to help you in identifying and locating some of the fossils that you might find. So let's take a minute. We'll walk around the stream here and see if we can find some fossils. We're going to look around here a little bit, see if we can find some different fossils in the stream. And I know when we come out here with the kids all the time, they're always looking, you know, they'll pick up everything and call it a fossil. So I want to try to point some of those things out as well that are different types of rocks and minerals and geological, type oddities, so that when you are looking for fossils out here, you can get a general idea of some of the things you might find. So along the way here, we'll look, like I said, for some of the glacial activity as well. Maybe some granite and things that are some really cool rocks and minerals you can take home as well. So we're just going to look around here, see what we can find. Right off the bat here, you'll see a concretion. And I know this is one of the primary things that all the kids pick up. And this is usually something you'll find in sandstone or siltstone. And essentially this is a type of rock that has a lot of iron in it. And you see those darker bands on the inside, and as the different layers form over time. Sometimes you'll have softer material on the inside that'll weather out, and you'll find these and they'll look like a little paint cup, or they'll look like something that's a little pocket. A lot of times the kids will find those and they'll think they're fossils. They're really, really cool, and we have a lot of them around here, but this is a concretion. So we'll take that back and put it up a little later to look at. And you have to be, this is like, you don't go to very many places where you can just find fossils and fossils one right after the other. You have to spend a little time looking here. And we always tell the kids that, you know, it's important to take your time as a scientist to observe, to really get down and look around, flip rocks over, because this flat rock here that has nothing on this side, if you flip it over, it might have a fossil on the other side through a different layer. So it's always a good, you know, anytime you see a hole in a rock, you might want to check it to make sure that it isn't an impression from a fossil or a cast or a mold or something like that. Oh, here's one. This is a brachiopod. Little mold of a brachiopod. This was a fossil. This was an animal that looked a lot like a clam, and it had a little stem on the base of it that would go down into the sand or into the substrate in the shallow water, and it was it looked like a clam up on a stick. So that's a brachiopod. We'll take that back and look at that later. See if we can find anything else. If we haven't been in the stream for a long time with groups, a lot of times we'll get lucky and we'll find some things just because people haven't looked for a little while. So here's another good concretion. Get the mud off of it here. So again, another good example of one where you can see the very rich iron red color and the softer materials that would be on the inside. And the kids will see things like these lines and lumps, and we do get trace fossils actually where animals had moved around in the substrate and left a trail. This, you know, might have been something that you would see from a trilobite or something moving around, but these are just actually parts of the concretion. Again, the softer material was on the inside, and when this broke open, it weathered away. Oh, nice one. Here we go. Covered up. Dry it off a little bit. So this is actually one that's full of all different things. You can see the round ones with the star in the middle. That's a crinoid. And these are the cross sections of a crinoid stem. A crinoid they used to call a sea lily, and it had a holdfast that went into the ground, and then it had this long segmented stem that looked like an earthworm, and that stem was part of the animal's body, and then up at top it had this big feathery plume that were the animal's parts of like arms that would gather up food and things like that. So we usually find them in these cross sections that look like a circle with a star, but sometimes you can find them laying on their side with even that plume attached to it. And in fact, Amanda found one of the best examples of that for Richland County a couple years ago up on a property up on the Black Fork River in Richland County. So that's a very good one. Let's look around. There's probably some more. I always tell the kids too, remember where you put your fossils. So we'll always go over here and make a pile of all the things that we found so you can remember where they are. We found this earlier. This is a piece of flint or chert, and we do find pieces of that. More than likely, though, this did not come from our area, and it wasn't brought here by the glaciers. This was most likely brought here by Native Americans from some site nearby here where they would have had an encampment or something, and they would have gotten this chert or flint from somewhere in southern Ohio, and they would have traded for it and brought it up here so that they could make artifacts out of it for hunting and different tools that they could use in their daily lives. And somehow over the years it just weathered down in here to the stream and was carried down here. We know there were Native Americans in this area because we have found artifacts like arrowheads in the stream here. So we know somewhere around here there must have been an encampment where they would have used flint like this to make those things, and this was just a piece that we found in the stream today. Let's look around. You also know there's lots of interesting things in the stream to be found, because we'll also find lots of glass and things. This looks like it's from an old bottle. So, you know, in fact, this is really cool. It's not only are we doing archaeology when we're finding fossils and ancient artifacts, but even historical stuff. This is sort of neat. We just picked this up, found it here today. I just made it wet so you can't read it, but this is off an old bottle. I don't know if Amanda can see it, but it says July 15, 1924. So unless it was some kind of commemorative bottle or something, it looks like something that actually had the date July 15th, 1924 on it. So we actually found an antique as well. Oh, what else do we have here? Like I said, we got to pick through. Oh, here we go, another. So this is something that the glaciers would have brought down, because we don't have a lot of limestone in our area. And this is limestone. So this would have come from somewhere either farther up into Canada or northern Ohio and brought down here by the glaciers, because most of the limestone that we find in Ohio is found from over in the western part of the state. This is a horn coral. So this would have been another animal that would have lived in those shallow seas. And it was a type of colonial coral that has a shape. Most of this is broken away. You can see the inside parts of the animal, but it would have been sort of a horn shape. You can see it tapers to a point at the end. So there's a piece of horn coral. Put it with our pile and our glass. We'll look around and see if we can find some more. Back from our fossil hunting expedition down in the creek here at Gorman Nature Center. And before we headed out, I just wanted to go back over some of the things that we found down there to get a little close-up, just to give people an idea of some of the things that they might find when they come out for their fossil expedition. So again, unfortunately, we couldn't have our big event here today, but we're hoping that this will give people an idea about what they can do out here at the Nature Center, and maybe they can come out this weekend or sometime in the coming weeks and they can have their own fossil hunt out here. And we hope everything will be back to normal soon and we can get back to having our Rock and Fossil Day with the Richland Lithic and Lapidary Society, our local rock club, next year. So we'll have Amanda zoom in close here a little bit. We'll just go over quick some of the things we found. So again, we had our brachiopod, which is a fossil, looks sort of like a clam on our sandstone. We had our horn coral, which was now a piece of limestone, another marine animal. We've got our crinoids here. We've got crinoids and brachiopods and all sorts of fossils in there. These fossils are sort of neat because they would have constituted what would have been sort of like a dead zone. So for some reason, a lot of animals died there in a very short amount of time, and they all just piled on top of each other and laid down, and then they were covered up very quickly by silt and dirt, and they were all preserved at the same time. So we've got some, that's most of the fossils that we found. Some of the other interesting things are concretions, the siltstone that gets surrounded with the softer materials inside, like a mudstone. Got a lot of iron in those. We found our chert, or our flint, that probably came from some Native American site somewhere around our stream. We have a piece of sandstone here. It's got some limonite in it. So essentially you had a layer of sandstone that was laid down, and then this layer of sandstone that was very high in iron that created this really thick band of iron-rich sandstone, and then another band of sandstone that was on top of that. So that iron sandstone will, that limonite will stay for much longer. It won't weather quite as fast as the other sandstone. And we got some glacial stuff here. We got some different examples of granite that would have come down from the Canadian Shield. Very, very old rock, billions of years old, that would have gotten ground up in the glaciers up on the Canadian Shield and brought down into here, Ohio, by the glaciers. So again, you can find some rocks. Granite isn't indigenous to Ohio, so this came down with the glacier. You wouldn't find any of this anywhere normally in the bedrock in Ohio. And then, of course, our historical object there, our July 15th, 1924 bottle. So all sorts of different things that you can find in the stream. So hopefully you can come out for Rock and Fossil Day, make your own Rock and Fossil Day out here on the streams here at Gorman Nature Center. Or you can find a stream of your own here in Richland County. I know a lot of the streams that we visited from place to place usually have a lot of interesting fossils, mostly things that are in sandstone, but also a lot of different glacial erratics and things like that. So you shouldn't be able to not go into a stream here in the Richland County area and at least find something of note. So since we can't have Rock and Fossil Day here this weekend, if the weather's nice, I would encourage everybody to go out and check out Rock and Fossil Day, make your own Rock and Fossil Day, and keep us in mind here at the Nature Center. The Richland Lithic and Lapidary Society meets here at Gorman Nature Center on the first Monday of every month, unless it's a holiday, at 7 o'clock. So we'd love to have you come in and hear our speakers, be involved with our silent auctions and the different activities that we do. We have all sorts of different things that we do here at the club. We normally have a big event out at the fairgrounds every year, the second weekend in June. Unfortunately, that's canceled this year as well due to the COVID virus, but that'll be coming up again next year. And we've just got lots of things we do, field trips and all sorts of activities. So I'd encourage everybody to come out and get involved with the club. So thanks again for coming along for our Rock and Fossil Day field trip down to the creek to look for fossils, and we'll see you in the future. Thanks a lot.